Wales is not a big country, but packed into it is a vast array of different habitats and a wealth of wildlife. There are not many places in the world where you can walk from mountain top, through moorland, along rivers, through woodland, onto the sea. And all of that in just a few hours. My name is Iolo Williams. I've lived and worked with wildlife in Wales all my life. And I want to share my passion for Wales's wonderful variety of wildlife with you. In this series, I'll be taking you all over the country in all weathers. I'll be visiting fabulous landscapes. And I'll be sharing with you the insights I've learned on this journey of discovery through Wales. In this programme, we'll travel to the uplands of Llangollen to see some extraordinary bird display, through the Bala area to find stoats, from there to Newtown to watch the best nest builder in Britain, then to Radnor to see roe deer, and across the Cambrian mountains to Cardigan Bay for another amazing bird display and a rare lizard, and end in Aberystwyth to see an extraordinary exhibition by 20,000 starlings. I begin in northeast Wales. The beautiful Vale of Llangollen and the remains of Castell Dinas Bran. Behind the castle is a large area of uplands, which was once one of the best grouse moorlands in Britain and the biggest in Wales. Around 40 years ago, grouse shooting stopped and the birds went into decline. But today, there's a big drive to revive the grouse population, and the heather's being cut to improve the birds' habitat. The best time to see the grouse is at dawn during early spring.
The moon is just dipping down below the horizon here now, and there are at least 10 male black grouse displaying on the bank opposite me over there. And it's my favourite noise. It always reminds me of my childhood, because I grew up in an area where black grouse at that time were quite common. And they're incredible birds. You've got to make a real effort to come out and see black grouse display. It's not something you'll see in your back garden. You won't see from the comfort of your own armchair. You've got to get up early. You've got to come to these really isolated but always stunning places. In Wales, it's on the edge of a moor like this. And when you hear the initial call, when the males first arrive, they make this hissing call, like a kind of call. The blood courses through my veins, because I know I'm just about to witness one of the best displays in the whole of the bird world.
Close up, male black grouse are spectacular birds. This one is fighting for a carefully selected piece of land, an area of ground known as a leck. Although black grouse numbers have declined dramatically over the rest of Britain, Wales has held on to its population. There are now around 200 displaying males in Wales, and most of them live here. It's important to retain the best position on the leck, as it'll be the biggest, most powerful male at the centre who'll mate with 80% of the females. The battle for this position is intense. pats or wattles are normally a quarter of this size, but during lekking they're engorged by blood to make them more visible. The tail also transforms into a bright white fan. This is purely a threat display, but a very elaborate one. The dominant grouse is on the right. Males will lek all year round, but it becomes more intensive at the end of April when the females arrive. They've been attracted by the noise and the bright colours of the males. The females are quite drab birds, and that's because once mated, they alone are tasked with incubating the eggs and raising the chicks. This dominant male is centre of attention for two females. The other males stay warily at the fringes. His long battle for territory, which has taken a full year, has finally paid off and mating takes place. All that for a couple of seconds. The holiday resort of Rhyl is not the obvious place to make a detour on a journey through the wildlife of Wales. But in fact, during the winter, it's one of the key sights to see a very striking and tough little bird. These visitors have travelled thousands of miles to be here on this particular beach.
These are snow buntings, smashing little birds, and we tend to associate them with the Arctic or the tops of the Cairngorms, and that's where they breed. But in winter, they move down to lower ground, and one of their regular haunts is this beach in North Wales. And you've got to ask yourself, why come here? It's not the most scenic beach in the world, but the reason is seeds. They're seed eaters like all buntings, and seeds blown by the wind get caught up on the pebbles on the beach and amongst this vegetation, this marram grass here, so it's ideal for them. And because the beach is long enough, if they exhaust the supply in a small area like this, all they have to do is move along a little bit and then move along again, and there's enough food here to last them all winter.
No other songbird migrates as far north as the snow bunting. In many parts of the Arctic, it'll be the only songbird present. It's incredibly hardy and flies north during the spring to breed. The snow buntings can be seen on this beach most days during the winter. You just have to spot them carefully on the pebbles. They're no bigger than a sparrow, but a lot more colourful. It's remarkable that this small flock of birds have travelled so far to be on this beach. Their parents, grandparents and great-grandparents before them have probably made the same trip. Each successive generation passing on the route and the location of their feeding site to their offspring. These are the Berwyn uplands. It might be going a bit far to call this landscape a true wilderness, but it is nevertheless a harsh environment and about as wild as it gets in Wales. I was born not far from here, and as a youngster I used to walk these hills in search of wildlife. It's one of my favourite places in the whole of Wales. The wildlife here is difficult to find, and you don't usually see much on a casual trek. But when you do find it, it tends to be very special. This is an interesting valley. It's Cwm Penanner near Bala, and it's got its own microclimate here. It's actually spring, not that you'd think that when you look around you. And it also happens to be one of the best places in Wales to see stoats. And the main reason for that are stone walls. Now, looking around here, you can see that they encompass most of the fields. They radiate out like spiders' webs. And stoats love stone walls. They've got nesting birds in spring. They're full of mice and voles, and particularly rabbits all year round. The stoats can den in here, and stoats don't like to venture out into the open. So it means that they can stick to the walls. They can travel all along the valley here without really venturing far from these walls.
I rarely see stoats these days, so seeing one is always a fantastic event. But finding one in white ermine fur is absolutely wonderful. Not all stoats change to a winter coat. Lowland animals generally retain their brown fur throughout the winter. Usually, you only get a fleeting glimpse, but this one has been tempted out into the open by a dead rabbit. I like stoats. They're great characters. Busy, but always on the lookout for danger. A stoat usually catches live prey, but in winter months, it'll readily eat carrion. They're tough, feisty little animals. This spectacular falls is west of Bala in North Wales. In this area of uplands, water fuels an intriguing form of wildlife during the autumn. Here, the combination of damp ground, simple sheep grazing and lack of fertiliser makes this particular patch of farmland a very special place for one group of fungi. They're wax caps, and they emerge from the ground usually around October. Over 30 different species have been recorded on this small area of pasture. They grow in different colours and shapes. And underneath, they have this wonderfully intricate structure.
These are my favourites. These are pink wax caps, but also known as the ballerina. Just look at the shape here. Looks like a ballerina in a tutu, but it's also called the ballerina because they're so elegant and delicate. And what's incredible is that this nondescript bit of farmland here is the best known site for wax caps in the whole of the world.
Wax caps are renowned for their variety in colour, yet we have no idea why they are so colourful. It's not a defence mechanism to avoid being eaten. They're not toxic, and all are edible. Neither do we know exactly why this particular piece of land is so exceptional for them. But they certainly like what this ground has to offer, because they thrive here. Experts have tried to grow them in laboratories, but they refuse to grow. There are many mysteries surrounding wax caps, but for the time being, the questions are unanswered. Most of the Welsh uplands have been set aside for sheep grazing, as indeed they are in the rest of Britain. At Nant y Cyrtiau Farm, north of Bala, a place has been set up to watch birds by a couple who share my passion for wildlife. This wonderful garden belongs to John and June Watkins.
I tell you what, you've got a feral place here, haven't you? Yes, indeed. It's in a lovely location. Don't mind if I come in here?
No, not at all.
I'll have a good look round here. Yeah, there's a kite out here now as well.
Yes.
No, there's two.
Two, are they?
Yeah, coming into mating
Yeah.
season, isn't it?
And there's greenfinches and all kinds of birds in here now.
Yeah, goldfinches, greenfinches. It's brought a lot of pleasure to us as well, seeing the colour, the excitement. The sparrowhawk, of course.
People don't like the sparrow. I like them. I
Do you like them?
Well, people will pay big money to go to Africa, to the Serengeti, to see lions bring down wildebeest. And if you put out food in the garden for your birds, sparrowhawk comes in. It's just the same, except it's free, and you can
Yes.
watch it from home.
Yes.
And I see you put out a variety of food, and of course that'll attract a variety of different birds, won't it?
Yes.
If you do that.
Yes.
But it's alive here. The sounds as well. You listen to the sounds. It's lovely, isn't it?
It is really nice.
And the hedge is full of sparrows at the moment.
Yes.
And a buzzard calling as well. And I tell you the one thing people forget about that you've got here natural, which is good. You've got water. Because people will put
Yes.
out food, won't they, for the birds, and they'll forget that actually birds need water just as much. It's just as
Oh, yes.
important.
Yes.
Here they come, look coming in.
Feeding them in the winter, the snow coming down, and all the birds are flying around you.
Yeah,
And that's, really, you can't put a price on that.
yeah.
You really can't.
It always amazes me what a few scattered nuts and lumps of fat will attract, especially here on the uplands where food is scarce. It doesn't take a lot of effort, and the show is terrific. In the summer, Nantycyrchiai is a very different place. And it's the season for even more exotic visitors. Some come from as far afield as Africa, like this beautiful male redstart. He's feeding his chicks in a nest he's built inside a hole in the barn wall. And here's the female. Wales is one of the main destinations in Britain for these summer visitors. It's well worth keeping your eyes open if you're near countryside buildings in Wales during the summer. They really are lovely birds. Traditionally, the redstart is a woodland bird that nests in holes in trees. But it will readily take to holes in buildings too. This pair has discovered a perfect residence for 2 months in the Welsh uplands. Later, we'll be encountering the extraordinary sights of boxing hares and leaping salmon. But first, I'm heading to my home patch. I live in mid-Wales near Newtown. Near my house, there are many wonderful quiet lanes.
Engineering, really.
The nest is like a small rugby ball made of moss woven together with spider webs and hair. It's camouflaged on the outside with lichen. The adults are pink, black and white balls of feathers with long, long tail. The nest has taken around 3 weeks to build, and the inside is lined with up to 2,000 feathers. The adults collect these off the ground in the surrounding woods and farmland, and sometimes they'll even pick them from the carcasses of other birds. The chicks grow quickly and need constant feeding. They're fed on insect larvae, and the adults return to the nest with food virtually every minute of daylight. They're also sometimes assisted by other adult long-tailed tits. No one knows for sure what benefit these adults get from doing this, but it's actually quite common in the bird world. The River Severn is not far from my home. Here, it's only a few miles from its source in the Cambrian Mountains of mid-Wales. At 220 miles, it's the longest river in Britain, and from here, it'll flow over the border into England. Along its banks, between Newtown and Welshpool, lies one of my favourite nature reserves in Wales. It's called Dolydd Hafren, which literally translates to 7 meadows, and it's managed by the Montgomeryshire Wildlife Trust. One of the characters I occasionally see at the reserve is Ivy Evans, one of the Trust's founder members.
This is the part that I particularly like because they've planted this and it's like coming through a long archway through here.
Yes, and it's not too dark.
No, but this is a nice bit. Sometimes you'll get a great
Oh, this
pit.
is a lovely walk. And you, say if now later on, March, April, well, we're in March, but later we've got all the birds in this thicket, haven't you?
You've got great tits and bullfinches and everything you get here.
Yes.
You know, it's a really
Yes.
nice little walk. Magpie's nest, Ivy.
Yes.
Not always welcome. Do you know what? My granddad
Yeah.
tells this tale. I mean, Tide was born in the 1880s. And he remembers in the village of Llanrug, half the village going out to see this incredible bird, a beautiful bird, a lovely greeny sheen and pure white. And within 15 minutes, the local keeper had heard about this.
Yes.
Bang! The bird was dead.
Oh.
What was the bird? A magpie. Oh. Until he was about 14, Tide had never, ever seen a magpie. Shows you how things have changed,
Of course,
doesn't it?
gamekeepers, they'd...
Yeah, they'd keep them
kill-
down, wouldn't they,
yes.
in those days?
Yes.
They really would. And they're nice birds, Ivy.
Oh, beautiful.
There you are. Go on, you go
But
first.
then if you have a little wren or a head sparrow, they're beautiful.
Yeah, you're right, you're
Yes.
right. We take them for granted, I
Yes.
think we do. Yeah.
For once, we're not at the reserve to look for birds. We're here to look for hares. It's one of the best reserves in Wales to see them, but not this particular morning.
Can you see anything?
No.
No, not me. Well, I say nothing. I can't see anything. It's probably in there, but...
Well, you are that much taller than me. You can see into the ridges. I can't.
Come on, let's go and see what we can see down here.
I can see things down here,
You
see?
look for the mice and the balls, Ivy, and I'll look for everything else, right? Because I'm too tall to see those.
The best time to see hares is at dawn, and generally when few people are around. This is a courting couple. The male is trying to mate with a female. But the female is choosy. And if the male persists, it leads to a boxing match. It's the origin of the phrase Mad March Hare. Hares are usually shy animals, but during the spring they change their behaviour. The need to mate brings them out into the open. They like traditional farmland, especially where there are crops to hide in and plenty of cover for themselves and their young when they're born. And that's precisely what this reserve at Dolydd Hafren provides. Its fields and hedges are managed like an old-fashioned farm. A perfect place for hares. Not far from Dolydd Hafren is another wildlife gem. It's a beautiful woodland set in the grounds of an old manor hall near Newtown. Whatever season you come here, the trees are full of birds.
This is the woodland at Grigannog Hall. It's only a few miles from home, so it's my local patch. And on a spring morning like this, it's wonderful. It's really tranquil. Just me, the trees and the birds, and that's it. And it always mystifies me why people rush through mid-Wales, heading north to Snowdonia and Anglesey in the Llyn Peninsula, and they'll head south to the Brecon Beacons and Gower and Pembrokeshire. It's wonderful for me because I get places like this all to myself. But it's a shame for those people because they're missing out on some real gems like this.
There's been a hall at Grigannog since the 12th century, and its 750 acres of ground are open to the public. The big conifer trees are particularly interesting. Like most other conifers in Britain, they're not native trees. They've been introduced and planted here. Before the 18th century, these trees didn't exist in Britain, but they provide a welcomed additional habitat for one bird, especially during cold nights. Behind the bark and relatively safe from predators and the elements. The old county of Radnor is next to Herefordshire on the English border. It's a soft landscape made up of farmland, rounded hills and occasional woodland. And it's in these woodlands that roe deer began to recolonise Wales around 20 years ago. Although a native species of Wales, for centuries roe deer were extinct, as indeed they were in most parts of England. They like a great deal of cover, and the loss of woodland contributed to their downfall. In the 1980s, they were reintroduced in Herefordshire, and they spread to Radnor. They can now be found in many parts of Wales, a fantastic recovery. There's one species, however, that can truly be described as Radnor's very own. It can only be found here, near Hergest Ridge on the English border, and nowhere else in Britain. And it lives on these rocks, which also happen to be the oldest rocks in Wales.
This is Stanner Rocks National Nature Reserve in mid-Wales. And this beautiful and rather delicate little flower here is the Radnor lily. Now it's found on this one lump of rock and nowhere else in the whole of Britain. Why is that? Well, a combination of factors really. The rock is dark, so it absorbs the heat of the sun. The soil is thin, it dries out quickly. And because this really is a North Mediterranean plant, this location is absolutely ideal for it.
The plant has a very good method of coping with hot and dry conditions. The leaves grow during the autumn and the plant flowers during March. The Radnor lily then dies back and exists as a bulb during the hottest and driest part of the year. So we have a plant which has found Mediterranean conditions in Wales. Now that must be unique. Heading west from the English border into mid-Wales, you quickly rise to a vast area of uplands. These are the Cambrian Mountains. They cover pretty much the whole central spine of Wales. They're Wales's last true wilderness, the biggest area of uplands in the country. It's to this forgotten part of Wales that I escape during the summer, because that's the time to witness one of the finest aerial displays in Britain. And here she comes, a very different bird, plainer with brown feathers. She's probably already incubating a nest full of eggs amongst the tall heather below.
The male hen, Harry, has just come in with food now, probably a meadow pipit or a vole. And she's brown, she's all brown, so she's the...
Many of the great rivers of Wales, including the Wye and the Dyfi, begin their life high up on the Cambrian Mountains. And there are numerous small tributaries joining them along the way. As they cut into the hills, they form deep gorges, which are particularly impressive in the autumn after heavy rainfall on the uplands. This is the River Marteg, a tributary of the Wye near Rhayader. During the first 2 weeks in December, it's a great place to see salmon jumping. The salmon are on their way to their spawning grounds higher up in the mountains. These deep gorges must be a serious hurdle for them, especially during a big flood. But one of the most impressive gorges in Wales is near Cemmaes Road, not far from Machynlleth. It's the River Twymyn, a tributary of the Dyfi. It's a very dangerous place during a big flood, and a fall into the river would almost certainly be fatal.
There's some impressive salmon trying to battle their way upriver. Trouble is, this gorge is so narrow and it's rained so much in the past few days that the power of the water here is immense. It's all froth and the noise from the waterfalls is deafening. So what the fish will do is they'll sit it out, dozens together in these deeper pools, wait for the water to subside just enough for them to make their way over this series of waterfalls 4 kilometres upriver to the spawning grounds.
This is one of the main routes for spawning salmon travelling up into the Welsh uplands from the West Wales coast. Salmon can jump up to 10 feet. It's an incredible leap. To achieve a big jump, they need deep pools to pick up speed. They flap their tail fin vigorously and propel themselves out of the water. On the west side of the Cambrian Mountains lies the forest of Nant yr Arian. It's a conifer plantation typical of the Welsh uplands. The forest overlooks a dramatic landscape, especially in the autumn. It's also one of the strongholds in Wales for red kites. It's a place where you are guaranteed a view of these spectacular birds at close range. And that's because they are fed here daily by Caredig Morgan.
You still feed Caredig on the bare green patch there, do you?
Yes, the same place as we have fed for the last, it's getting for nearly 12 years now.
12 years, is it? And I tell you what's amazing, look at the number of birds up now.
Yeah, they're here already and with what, an hour to go till kite feeding time?
numbers have increased, have they, over the past 12 years?
We started off with 2, and when we eventually got to 4, we'd throw a party then, you know. We'd really made it. Now we're into the hundreds.
So what we're going to try and do is, Caredig will put the food down in a fairly open patch just over here, and I'm going to get in amongst... Where do you think? Should I get in at the back amongst the tall trees, or will I be all right?
Come in through from the back into the front, then I think would be the best. You'll be fine in there, yes, and you'll be safe.
Let's go over and have a look. Let's go over and have
Certainly.
a look, because I think that'd be nice if it works.
Kites are terrific flyers, and to see them at close range is a rare privilege. It's a case of Caredig scattering the meat and waiting for the first swoop.
Whew. You know, for such a big bird, the kite is incredibly agile. They've been circling above me now for maybe 15, 20 minutes, not quite sure whether to come down or not. A buzzard came, then all of a sudden the floodgates are open. Look at this. Look at this. From maybe 10 metres up, they fold their wings, they then fall down, and then at the very last minute, the wings and the tail opens out, the talons swoop down, they grab the meat, they don't land at all, and then they're up again, and all of that in a split second. Here we are, look. Oh, wow. Of course, the wings and the tail, they make perfect breaks. And you always think when you see them coming down like this, by the dozen, you think, wow, you think it's going to be a head-on collision here, but there never is. There never is. They react like lightning. They'll swerve left, swerve right, avoid each other whilst picking up the food. And the sky now is like something out of an Alfred Hitchcock film. It's full of kites.
If you're heading west, Wales ends here. This is Cardigan Bay. And you can see it's a bay. We're pretty much right in the middle of it. And look north, that's the Llŷn Peninsula. Stretches right out, and Bardsey right on the tip, although from here it does look like a series of islands. The other way then, looking south, this is Cardiganshire, and it bends around and eventually you come to Pembrokeshire in the distance over there. When I first came to these dunes, must be 30 odd years ago now, they were much smaller, but the sea is constantly dumping sand, so it's got wider and wider, and it's one of a series of dunes in this part of the coast, and it now forms an impressive barrier between the sea and the land.
These are one of the most important wildlife habitats in Wales. Though you'll be very lucky to see one, Britain's rarest lizard lives on the Tywyn Dunes. It's a sand lizard, and he's looking for small insects amongst the vegetation. It's only found in a handful of locations in Wales, the northwest of England and southern Britain. It's an endangered and protected species. They especially like dune ridges and thick marram grass growth. They're good places to hunt. And they themselves could be hunted, particularly by crows and gulls, so they have good camouflage patterns all along their bodies. The sand lizards at Tywyn form part of a nationwide reintroduction programme which has been in place for nearly 40 years. Here, it has proved to be a great success. They're breeding well and extending their range along the sand dunes of Cardigan Bay. A few miles up the coast from Tywyn lies the Mawddach estuary. It's an exceptionally cold spell. So cold that parts of the salt marsh has frozen.
I've never seen the Mawddach estuary look like this before. The ground here is frozen solid. There are mini icebergs out on the water there. And I think because we've had a succession of mild winters, we forget that in a really hard winters, even the estuaries freeze up. And that is really bad news for the hundreds of thousands of birds that come here from the north of Russia, from Eastern Europe, to escape their hard winters. It actually looks like the Arctic here now.
Despite the cold, hard ground inland, the mudflats are still soft. And that's why an estuary is so important to so many birds. During a severe winter, it's the only place to feed. These curlew, like most other waders feeding here, are all migrants from Europe. There's a redshank and a black-tailed godwit using its beak to probe deep to find worms. These icy conditions may seem at odds with global warming, but severe short-term weather can occur in any climate. Cold snaps such as this have occurred in Britain during the past 2 winters. And when this happens, it can change the behaviour of local wildlife. And there's a very good example of this further south along the coast. Near the mouth of the Dyfi estuary, there's a large area of wetland known as Cors Fochno. The raised bog at its core is one of the largest in Britain. But during winter, it too can freeze, causing some of its residents to move elsewhere to feed. It's a fantastic chance to catch a glimpse of animals normally hidden from view. In the Lerry, the river that separates the bog from the sea, I've discovered an otter hunting under the railway bridge. You can spend a lot of time looking for otters. You can stalk quietly in known hotspots and try to be inconspicuous. But in reality, once they appear, they're usually not bothered at all with humans. This one is ignoring me and getting on with the job of hunting. And there's plenty of food for it in the estuary.
Oh wow, it's not often you get this close to a wild otter. He's up and down all the time, looking for fish mainly, maybe a few crabs in here as well.
This one has caught a small flatfish. Although their main prey is fish, they'll eat whatever they can catch, including frogs, birds and other small animals. And it always amazes me how big and powerful they look when I see them out of the water. A very strong tail to help them swim fast and sharp teeth. And this otter would have had to dive fairly deep to get that fish. Climate change and sea level rise has had a dramatic effect on the Welsh coastline, as it has in the rest of Britain. And further up the Dyfi estuary, there's stark evidence of this. On a very low spring tide, these structures appear in the mud. And if you're careful of the dangers of a rising tide, they can be examined.
You know, when you first come here and you see these big blocks, you swear that it's wood that's been washed down by the river into the Dyfi estuary, but they're not. Have a look at this. They're tree trunks. And these tree trunks date back 5,500 years. You've got oak, you've got pine, you've got hazel and you've got birch. And at that time, a large forest would have covered not just the land you see here, but it would have extended right out into Cardigan Bay because the Ice Age was still having a big influence. It was locking a lot of water into the polar extremities. All that remains now are these few tree trunks, and you've got to time your visit here perfectly because they're exposed only at the very lowest tide.
6,000 years ago, this would have been thick woodland growing on the side of a steep valley. But as the sea level rose, the land was flooded. Mud and sand sediment built up, which then not only covered the trees, but transformed the valley into a flat, muddy estuary. Journey's End, the university town of Aberystwyth. Probably not the place that you'd expect to witness a truly remarkable aerial display. This time it involves 20,000 birds. It's the end of a midwinter's day. Starlings are returning to town after feeding all day in the surrounding countryside. As the sun sets over the seafront, more and more arrive. They drop down from the sky and head for the pier to roost overnight.
Oh wow, look at that. The sky is just full of starlings. It's like fireworks exploding here, there and everywhere. It's very, very hypnotic. And the big advantage with Aberystwyth Pier is the fact that it's so short. So the birds give this terrific display right over your head, back and forth. And also you can hear them. If you listen, you can hear the wings, thousands of wings. They call to each other constantly as well. And because you're so close to the whole spectacle here, you feel that you're part of it. Here they go again, look at that. Like a wave of starlings coming over. Oh, wow.
The starlings roost under the pier. They do this partly to keep warm and partly to protect themselves from predators. No fox, cat or peregrine can get at them here. Nevertheless, they feel the need to jostle for the best perch. The birds in the centre of the roost will not only be warmer, but safer too. By dusk, thousands arrive. Aberystwyth is one of only a handful of places in Britain where starlings roost in towns. Most of these starlings are birds from the continent. They've come to Wales to escape the cold winter temperatures and frozen ground of continental Europe. They'll return to mainland Europe during the spring. And so you'll only see this spectacle during the winter. In the next programme, I'll be visiting Snowdonia to see a magnificent osprey and relics of the Ice Age. I'll be tracking wild goats and deer in Meirionnydd, enjoying the stunning beauty of Anglesey and the seals and shearwaters of the Llŷn Peninsula. It's a journey to the rugged northwest.
Professor Jim Al-Khalili continues chemistry's volatile history with a trip through the periodic table here on BBC4 in just a moment. Then at 9, Inspector DeLuca's drawn into a seedy underworld with a body in a brothel. Stay with us.